The Smith Wesson Performance Center M&P 10mm M2.0 should be the best gun for bear defense on the market right now. And in fact, in many ways on paper, it's the best 10mm handgun available in 2024. If it was utterly reliable, which unfortunately, I'm here to tell you that it isn't necessarily so. But there's some great things about this pistol that I want to tell you about, and then there's some issues that I've been running into that you need to be aware of, and I honestly just wanted to get this gun as a bear defense or woods carry gun. Chambered in 10mm auto, it's a perfect candidate, and it has all the features you would want in a modern striker-fired pistol here in 2024. But reliability, to me, is the utmost importance when it comes to relying on a handgun to defend my life. And this handgun just doesn't necessarily meet that requirement. So I'm Magic Prepper, and of course I'm here to give you honest, transparent reviews about any of the gear, equipment, or firearms that I review here on the channel. And thanks to Midway USA, who is the biggest supporter of the channel, I can do so with impunity. They give me a green light to be honest about anything I review, regardless of what company it comes from or what type of product it is. And they just want me to give you the best information I possibly can. And thanks to Midway USA, I feel like more of us are better prepared. So big thanks to Midway USA for supporting what I do. And I want to mention that I am a huge Smith & Wesson fan. I love the company. My very first pistol or handgun was a Smith & Wesson 686 Plus Pro Series. So I have had excellent experiences with Smith & Wesson products throughout my life. This is just not one of them. Now, this particular pistol has some documented issues that I was willing to try to overcome or at least overlook during the purchasing process, because it does seem like one of those luck of the draw type scenarios. And it is a performance center pistol, which means it does get the treatment you would expect from those high-end pistols coming out of Smith & Wesson. Now, before I start telling you about the issues that I've been running into and everything else about this gun that you may or may not be interested in, I want to give you the basic specifications so you're aware of what this gun brings to the table and why I chose it as a possible bear defense gun. First off, it has a ton of value. This gun, and the reason it was worth taking a risk on, in my opinion, is a really good deal based on all the things that it has. Its MSRP is $749, and you're not going to beat that anywhere else when it comes to what this pistol provides you with in a 10mm platform. Now, it has a 5.6-inch ported barrel. Now, the barrel is really about 5 inches long because that's where the rifling ends, and then the remaining 0.6 inches is really just smooth where the porting is. But still, the barrel itself is 5.6 inches long, so you get some great ballistics out of the 10mm from a barrel of that length. It also has the Performance Center tuned trigger and action with the manual safety. And I can tell you right now that this trigger is excellent. It's the best striker-fired trigger I've ever used, in all honesty. And I've shot Walthers and VP9s and everything else, and this one is very crisp, has a very clean break, and a great reset. Now, it has a manual safety, which I like. First off, because the trigger, in all honesty, is too light to not have some sort of external safety, at least in my opinion. And as a woods gun or bear defense gun, my thought process was that I might carry it in a chest rig or in a pouch off body or something along those lines. And in those situations, I like there to be an external safety just in case. So to me, I think the manual safety is actually a good idea on this particular pistol. It has suppressor height night sights stock from the factory, which is great because it also has an optics cut, and it comes with all the different optics mounting plates you could want. However, they specifically say you need to use their 6A mounting plate, which is designed for the Delta Point Pro footprint, because it's the only metal plate that it comes with. And so I use that because the 10mm requires a little bit more of a robust mounting system. And by using the Delta Point Pro mounting system, I decided to choose the HoloSun SCS 320, which is a fully enclosed optic that fits on that footprint. So optic's been great. Yes, it's auto adjustable. It does have an override. It's not necessarily the best optic for night vision or something like that, but for woods defense, having that optic makes things a little bit easier, a little bit faster to get on target. And it never needs batteries, it solar recharges, and it auto adjusts, so it's pretty basic and simple for a woods gun. So I like it for that purpose. It also has a lot of modularity in the sense of the grip size, because it comes with a bunch of additional grip inserts that you can put on the back strap that allow you to change from a small, medium, large, or large hand size. It comes with two 15-round double stack magazines, which is another great selling point for this pistol because 15 rounds of 10mm is pretty impressive and definitely better than your standard single stack 1911 will provide, and a lot more ammunition than your typical revolvers you see in this particular capacity. Now, the gun, even though it's pretty large, only weighs 31.4 ounces. And because it doesn't have a big beaver tail on the back, it actually is about the exact same size as a 5-inch 1911 with the beaver tail. And so if you can think of it in that kind of framing, you know what it would fit in regarding any pouches or chest rigs or anything else that you might want to use it for. And that's why I knew it would work for me, because everything that I had intended to use it for fits a full-size 1911. So that worked out. Now, this gun shoots very nice. With that Performance Center action-tuned trigger and with the ported barrel, it's definitely the softest shooting 10mm I've shot personally. Now, I haven't shot a lot of different 10mm pistols, but I've shot a few, and I can tell you that this one definitely shoots the nicest. And obviously, there's reasons behind that. However, here's where things start to fall apart. This gun has some strangeties to it. And I can't necessarily fully blame the platform as much as I can blame the 10mm as a whole when it comes to the ecosystem surrounding the cartridge. And we'll get into that here in just a minute. But first and foremost, this gun hasn't made it to 1,000 rounds yet. As of right now, I'm at about 750. And I've had enough failure to feeds in that 750 rounds that I don't feel confident in this pistol. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, first off, the very first magazine through this gun presented me with a failure to feed. These are the very first shots through the pistol. Let's see how it goes, and hopefully it's nice and reliable. Yeah. The third round. Exactly. So, and that was with MagTech 180 grain full metal jacket 10mm auto. And now, if you don't know much about 10mm, there's a lot of issues with that ammunition because, well, companies decide how they want to load it rather than sticking to certain specs, and you get different pressures and velocities that are all over the map. And so some 10mm auto loadings will emulate 40 Smith Wesson and basically be the exact same ballistics in a longer cartridge. And some run a little bit hotter. And of course you have your really hot stuff from Buffalo Bore, Underwood, Double Tap, that's meant for predator defense, right? And your pistol has to somehow deal with the full gamut of all those different pressures and velocities and amounts of energy being put out by those projectiles. And it just doesn't work very well to cover all of those bases. Now, MagTech is actually of decent velocity and energy. For being full metal jacket range ammo, it's one of the better performers out there. Back on the range, just doing some more testing. We got the MagTech 180 grain full metal jackets back in the gun. This is not the first magazine I've ran of that ammo since having the initial failure to feed, but everything else it's ran has been fine, and so has the rest of this ammo. So we're gonna test it out, and hopefully I can clear the plate rack. We'll see, I guess. Only took 7 shots, right? But we're getting good reliability. Stuff like Federal tends to perform more like 40 Smith & Wesson. So I like MagTech generally because it's actually loaded to a decent amount of powder, I guess we'll say. But this gun had some issues with MagTech. It had some other issues as well. Maybe it's too cold. Ooh, that doesn't like that at all. Try it again. And those issues were with cellular and billet full metal jackets and with Federal jacketed soft points, which is a decent variety of ammunition to have problems with. Now, the other thing that's interesting about this pistol is that I never had any issues shooting hot, hard cast lead rounds. Is that fast enough for a bear at 15 yards? Does the hard cast stuff pretty good, but full metal jackets, soft points, I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. Which is, well, I guess a good thing, because that's the type of ammunition you're generally going to carry for woods defense, especially against large predators like bears. Because you want that hard cast, gas-checked lead projectile to slam through all types of muscle and sinew and bone to get to the vitals of these really big animals, which is why you have a 10mm, because it does a good job of doing that. It has high velocity with a heavy projectile that means a lot of energy on target and a lot of penetration. So the gun seems to work well with the ammunition that I would want to use with it predominantly. But that's where the problems start to come in for me personally. And you can let me know in the comments down below how you feel about this. And I'm just trying to give you the honest truth about a pistol that should, in all honesty, be the best 10mm for bear defense on the market right now for the price. Like for $750 MSRP, which means you get this for a lot less than that on the street price, right? For that amount of value, to have the optics cut, the suppressor height night sights, the performance center tuned trigger, the manual safety, the ability to mount a weapon mounted light, 15 round magazines, and everything else related to the gun. A really aggressive grip texture, a comfortable ergonomic design. All the controls are in good spots. Like it's the perfect 10mm pistol for its price. But it's very picky on ammo. And now I'm starting to realize that that's kind of a 10mm issue in general. So, I've had a lot of failures to feed with this gun. A lot. Okay, so we were having a good run with the M&P Performance Center 10mm until it got cold. Now, I use the same weapons lube for all my pistols. It's Slip 2000 EWL. It's rated to like negative 85 degrees or something like that. No issues with my Glock, no issues with my HK or my SIG or anything else, right? So I don't know if that's the problem because, you know, this isn't covered in lubrication. It's using appropriate lubrication for the temperature. It's 4 degrees right now with some wind chill. And we're gonna run some double tap 200 grain hard cast through and then an assortment of cellular and billet, Federal and MagTech to just verify that these issues are real or whatever it is. But as of right now, I haven't even hit 1,000 rounds in this pistol yet, and the amount of failures are unacceptable in my opinion. So we're just gonna shoot it, kind of see how it goes, and yeah, verify whether or not it's something I'd rely on for bear defense, because that's really the primary reason why I wanted a pistol in 10mm, and I wanted one with all the modern features that this one provides. So, see how it goes. Gonna throw some lead at some steel, because I just think that'd be a good time, honestly.
Hard to get the trigger to reset sometimes with these thick gloves on. That's for another video, but there's a reason why a USP is back in the lineup. Okay. That was a good magazine. Now, we're gonna swap for the mixture. It's full metal jackets, jacketed soft points, Federal, cellular and billet, and MagTech. And why? Because I have a big old Ziploc bag full of those different types of ammunition options for 10mm, and I'm just loading them up and we're shooting it because, well, this gun just needs to be able to reliably cycle, right? So, once again, and a failure to feed. So, let's find out exactly what type of round this is that we're having an issue with. And this is a cellular and billet full metal jacket. Sorry about the gloves. Like I said, it's very cold. And these gloves are a little big. They're from Outdoor Research, and we're doing what we can out here. So let's get this loaded back up and keep things rolling.
Enough to where I'm not super confident in the pistol. And I don't think it's necessarily a design issue as much as it's a platform and cartridge issue. And I believe that a lot of 10mm pistols suffer from the same situation. While some are much more forgiving than others, this is one of the ones that's less forgiving because there's so much variance in the cartridge. And so you have to decide, if I have a pistol like this, it's primarily made for being a woods gun. Am I okay with the fact that I know there's certain types of ammunition it will shoot well and others that it won't? And unfortunately, in my situation, we have the higher end, more expensive hard cast lead rounds functioning, well, pretty much flawlessly. But we have the more affordable range training ammunition that I'd want to shoot more often to actually get out and be proficient with this handgun, not working properly. Which means if I want to get proficient with the handgun and I want to shoot it with frequency, I have to spend the money on high-end bear defense ammo to make sure it's going to run reliably. And that's asking a lot because I shoot a lot. And I want to be very proficient with the gun that I'm going to rely on when it comes to defending myself from large predators. And I want the option possibly to switch over to hollow point loads or to full metal jacket rounds or whatever it may be, depending on what the threat situation is, if this is the only gun I have on me, which would probably be the case in a woods type scenario. And I also have to consider the fact that just a few years ago, we had quite the ammo shortage. And in that ammo shortage period, you weren't necessarily allowed to be picky about the type of ammo you were finding. And so if we get into another shortage and I'm not fully stocked up on high-end, expensive buffalo bore or underwood or double tap bear ammunition, and I'm at the mercy of what I can find locally or online, how will I even know if that ammunition is going to cycle or work properly in this handgun? Now, one thing I also will mention that you've probably already seen at this point, but I want to just touch on once again, is that all the problems from this pistol started showing up when it got cold outside. Now, obviously, we had some problems before that, but very few. And then it got cold outside, and then this thing really started to struggle. Now, the weird part about that is I'm in a situation right now where I live in North Dakota. It's cold here most of the time. And so if it's cold most of the time where I live, and for some reason this gun isn't functioning well in this cold environment, what good does it do me in all reality, especially when hunting season and getting out in the woods in the unincorporated territories out here is during the colder months? Now, I don't necessarily have a bunch of bear threats here in North Dakota, don't get me wrong. But I also don't want to have to depend on a pistol like this to only work in warm, pleasant weather. What if I want to go on a hunt in Alaska? Would I want to be able to defend myself from bears there? Probably. Could it be cold there? I would say probably.
Obviously,
What if I go on a hunt in Wyoming?
in the system.
Same situation. And so I don't know if the cold is the exact culprit for why this started having a lot more problems, because it started off much better. But that doesn't necessarily make me feel better about it. And I know it's not a lubrication or any other issue regarding the cold, because I use the same lubrication on my other firearms. I use the same methods of cleaning and maintenance on my other firearms, and none of them are having the issues that this particular gun is having. So, I like this gun, and I think it is really good for how much it costs and what features it has. It has everything you want in a 10mm pistol in 2024. It has a great value. But that only matters if it's reliable. And even if I sent this back to Smith Wesson, which, full transparency, I have not. And clearly, it's trying to fight with me now. But no, I have not sent this back to Smith Wesson because I'm already aware of the issues that people have with this particular firearm. Like I said, I thought maybe it would be worth the risk to try to see if those same issues were going to apply to mine based on how high the value is. But I have zero faith that sending this back to the factory is going to fix that or change that based on my research. What I do think this gun would be good for is somebody who's okay with knowing there's only certain types of ammunition that I will feed. And that's fine if that's how you feel about it. But personally, I need a reliable pistol that isn't so ammo dependent that if I were to run out of a certain supply or have no access to a certain supply, that the gun would no longer be functional. And that's just not something I'm willing to sign up for. Especially when I have, for example, a SIG P226 that I have a 357 SIG barrel for that runs flawlessly without issue. Or I could just get a 357 Magnum revolver once again and feel pretty good about that and have, well, in all honesty, access to even better terminal ballistics in a pretty reliable package. So, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Is this a gun that you would keep and use even though you know that there's a lot of different ammunition types it doesn't like? Look, it ran Winchester silver tip fine. It ran multiple different types of lead hardcast ammunition fine, including Underwood and Buffalo Bore and double tap. So it does do a lot of stuff well. But if I can't shoot anything that's relatively affordable out of it without it having issues, that's a problem for me. Because I shoot a lot and I need to be able to shoot more than just the high-end expensive stuff, especially if I want to get good with this gun. And you do have to train with 10mm auto quite a bit because it is a lot more to control than something like a 9mm. And then the other thing I want to know is, well, what you would do. Would you get another 10mm? Or do you think that 10mm as a whole is flawed to a degree? This is not the first 10mm I've owned that's had similar issues when it came to being finicky about ammunition selection. And we know the manufacturers aren't providing us with 10mm auto every step of the way. Sometimes it's 40 Smith & Wesson. And that's not acceptable either. But we're not really privy to that, are we? We just have to kind of take what we can get. And we don't have those same issues with 40 Smith & Wesson or 357 SIG. So I don't really understand why it's an issue at all. But it certainly is. And unfortunately, it seems to be problematic, not just for this particular pistol, but for a lot of the 10mm platforms out there in general. So, like I said, this on paper is the best 10mm bear defense gun out there right now in 2024. But only on paper. And if it's not going to be utterly reliable, I don't want to put it into the role of defending my life from some of the scariest animals on the planet. I would rather take my chances with a highly reliable, highly dependable SIG P226 and 357 SIG than a 10mm Smith & Wesson Performance Center M&P 2.0 and 10mm auto that's not giving me a lot of confidence in its reliability. And that's just what it is. And I wanted to share that with you all because, my Fallout 4 dreams of having a 10mm pistol that was all decked out and kind of future looking and cool might not have come to fruition in the way that I had hoped. And instead, I'm making you this video because, well, I just don't think I can recommend this pistol at this time. And that's just my experience. Let me know your experience down in the comments below. Yes, I'm aware that there are certain fixes people have found regarding this particular handgun. People have said, oh, I found springs that I changed out with the magazines, and it makes the feeding more reliable and failure to feeds are less problematic. I understand that, and that might be a good fix. But that's not what I'm necessarily looking for in a handgun from a factory, especially one that's from the Performance Center of Smith Wesson. I shouldn't have to fix the gun to make it work properly. That's just not something I think is something I want to recommend to others, right? If that's something you want to take on, then power to you, and you can probably figure it out, and I, well, give you credit for that. But I'm never going to recommend a gun that needs work the second you buy it, because that's not what people generally want. And a lot of people, like I said, this doesn't even have 1,000 rounds on it yet. And I'm talking like lots of failure to feeds. That's not a good percentage for me. And a lot of people don't even shoot that much. A lot of people don't even get to 200 or 300 rounds with a handgun. And what if they got to that point where I was at, where I thought, hey, everything's been fine and looking good, and then they didn't shoot it during the winter, and then they didn't have any problems? Well, they would just think the gun was good to go. But pushing it past that 200 or 300 rounds turned into, hey, something's not working right. And that's my job, to share with you the exact transparent honesty of what's happening and my thought process on the entire situation in the meantime. So anything else you want to add, leave it in the comments below. Hopefully this gave you some things to consider. Hopefully, even if you do have one of these pistols, maybe have some advice for others here in the comments that would be, helpful for those who are struggling in the same ways that I have been. And at the same time, let me know about other 10mm pistols that you've shot or that you own that you find to be very reliable and don't have any of these issues. Because if that's the case, maybe that's something worth trying. But in all honesty, I don't even know how I feel about 10mm as a whole lately, just because of all the variants and everything else related to the ammunition, well, not being consistent. And I can understand why it'd be hard to make guns consistently work with ammunition that can't be produced consistently, right? So let me know your thoughts on that as well. Anything else you need from me, go to magicprepper.com. There's tons of stuff there. There's discount codes. There's a Discord server you can join for free, all kinds of stuff. So make sure you check that out. And besides that, that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.